evening, everybody. Listen, StreamYard, I'm gonna need y'all to get it together. If you're on Facebook, I am so sorry. You're gonna have to catch us on the YouTube streets because we just lost you. But hello, everybody, and welcome back to another. This is a very special episode. It is Women's History Month, but that's not why these lovely ladies are here. They're here because we're talking about the art of crushing confidence. I am so excited that you're here. Hi, Fihmiya. How are you?
I'm good, Shelly. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tomika, listen, this is family right here. I've already had her and her son.
Yes.
So welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. And what a great topic to be talking about, right?
Absolutely. All right. So I have to do some quick shout outs and say hello. I know we have folks watching us on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn, and also the folks who are watching us on Parade Deck Live TV channel on the Mrs. Pie stream. So hi, y'all. And shout out again to the rest of the Parade Deck fans and family. For those of y'all who don't know, this is a group. We're all veterans or military spouses, and this is a global network. And obviously, there's a lot of us that are considered influencers. I don't know why on this channel, but I have to give a quick shout out to my community. And there's a community now of I'm having trouble with the numbers, Andrew Appleton. So you need to tag me real quick. Of 134 million plus in our community. So that is humongous. That is a huge blessing. But I do have to say a quick shout out because we do have people there that support our channel. So thank y'all for watching. And so now let's get into it. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I look forward to all my conversations. Okay. This one's a little bit different. And we're going to have fun tonight because when we talk about confidence, I think as women, some of us have some issues with confidence, and we're not sure if we're coming off as aggressive, or how do you become, make sure that you're not being too assertive and all these things. So for those of y'all who are watching tonight, if confidence is thank you, Nadine, you see us on LinkedIn, thank you for the shout out. Amen. All right, thank you. Drop your comments along the way regardless of where you are. And make sure, can you just like and share so we can get more people to watch us? And also, we do have folks who listen to us in a couple of days on all the audio platforms. So again, y'all need to come back and watch the live so you can see how beautiful my friends are. But thank you for listening.
You too, Shelly.
We have to keep up with you.
We got to get it together. It's Women's History Month.
Yes.
So today, I want to pause for a little bit and just give you both a chance to just briefly introduce yourself. So let's go with Tomika. And you're a transformative business coach. And again, as I've said, some of our audience members have met you before. But can you just do a quick reintroduction to those who might be new?
Of course, I'm happy to. So I am Tomika Snodgrass, and I am an executive and business coach, as Shelly said. And I predominantly work with female business leaders and entrepreneurs who work in male-dominated industries. And I just help them to walk in their power, to own their voices, and to show up with bold confidence as the queens that they are, because I want every woman to thrive and to live joyfully and happily in her personal and professional life. I always say, why have the cake if you can't eat it too? So you can have it all, And I help women with that, just overcoming those self-doubts and those fears and those worries so that we can show up as our full selves and reach our full potential.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So now for me, when I was introduced, by the way, I've been stalking this woman for some time on LinkedIn.
Have you?
I have. I have been doing that. I've been reading your posts, and it's been encouraging and it's inspirational, and I love it. So can you touch a little bit about, talk a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Yeah. So I'm Fihmiya Hamdan. I am a community manager and social impact advisor. So I help organizations and people drive social impact by fostering those community connections. So, Tomika knows that I'm all about the community building and creating and inspiring those inclusive spaces, because we all know that that's where people want to be. They want to be in a space where they belong and have a space to really just show their voices and elevate them as well. So, and just really deepening those connections, but also really working on those meaningful conversations and how you can lead them as well.
So here's our first question. And again, for those of y'all who are listening, feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat, in the comments. And the first thing is around our value and showing up powerfully. And what does that mean when we talk about showing up powerfully? How would you play that out? What does that look like for you? So we'll go to Tomika. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah,
of course.
Show up powerfully.
No, to me.
For me, it's really about owning your space, owning your voice, and owning your presence. So when you show up, it's with that belief in yourself and knowing that you have something valuable to bring to the table. And you are exactly where you're meant to be. You're there because you belong there. You belong in the boardroom, right? You belong in this meeting. You belong at this networking event, whatever it is. And I don't care where you're showing up. Show up as your true self, authentically. You don't need to try to fit in. You don't need to try to be like anybody else. And it took time for me to learn that because I came up in the banking industry, in the corporate banking industry over 30 years ago, when there was nobody around that looked anything like me. 30 years ago in corporate banking, there were no Black people. And I was one of just a few women around. And so at first I did try to fit in and try to find my way and figure out, how do I belong? How do I fit in? And then what I discovered is, wait a minute, I have something very unique. I'm one of the only women. My perspective is unique. What I bring to the table is different than what anybody else brings, to the table. That's owning your power, owning your space, owning your voice, owning your presence. That's what it means to show up powerfully.
Wow. How about you, Fihmiya?
Well, I just want to say, Tomika, I loved what you had to say, because definitely want to just piggyback off of her a tad bit. For me, showing up powerfully is about owning your worth and recognizing it and making space or taking up space. But for me, it's about understanding what my strengths, my talents are, and aligning it to the values that I come in with and knowing what it is that I need. And by doing that, that's when I can use my voice to really talk about my worth and my value and saying, hey, Fihmiya's got something over here to offer. I need you to listen and I need you to pay attention, because what I bring to the table is going to be different and unique from somebody else that's sitting there as well. And adding on, of course, a value. But like Tomika, really just had to find my voice too. When you're kind of in spaces where you don't have that option or you're not given space, you're kind of like, I need to make the space for myself as well.
Yeah. I love that. And there's no threat, to other women. I think this is where a lot of women kind of go a little bit crazy. I'm just speaking as a woman to women, okay? Where there's this sense that you have to compete. So when we're talking about taking up our space, I'm taking up my space, not yours. I'm not coming to your space. I'm owning mine. And that is, I think, a part of the confidence that we have, is we're not interested in cloning what somebody else is doing or trying to take over what they have. We're just very comfortable in our skin, if you will. And I love what both of you guys have said so far. And so I want to ask you around insecurities and toxic cultures, because this is one of those, this is not my space. I am not sitting around. I'm not that girl. I am not your girl if you need a water cooler gossip to, talk about how things are going terribly. I'm sorry, that's not me.
Right.
Don't have time for it.
No time for that.
Time for it, right? And I find that, I've had experiences with other women where, because you're not following, right? Nadine, she said, let's get into the tea. It's the truth. Because you're not following the crowd. My mom used to say all the time that, Shelly, you're a great leader, you're a horrible follower. And it's true. I used to get really offended because people would, the crowd would go right and I would go left, and I would be so offended when she would say that. But I get it. I'm just not built for that. So I wonder if you could talk to, women who are kind of facing those toxic cultures and some advice that you might have about, have around that.
Yeah, I'd like to go first if that's okay, Tomika.
Of course, yes.
So I've been in And I love what Nadine said. Let's get in the tea. So I have been in a few toxic workspaces. And for me at that time, when I look back at it now, it's because I wasn't aligned with my own values. I was too busy trying to please what everybody else was doing. I was trying to quote unquote fit in what the crowd was doing, because again, I didn't want to be disliked or judged. I wanted to be in a space where everybody else was, but there was just something deep down inside of me that just did not feel right. I'm like, why am I following them? I'm not standing out from this crowd. So I had to go shift the other way, and I started to rebel. And I think it's also because I'm a middle child. But when I say rebel, I mean it in a good way. I wanted to stand out in my own unique way. And that's when I really advice or suggestions to people is to really just focus on, what are your values? What do you stand for? Who are you? What do you bring to the table? And I think when we really hone in on that and can confidently own those talents and strengths, it really does separate you from everyone else. And again, it's like you said, we're not trying to take Tomika or Shelly or Nadine's chair. It's about, I also have a space here. I deserve to be here. I belong here.
I love that.
That's my 2 cents.
I love that.
So well said. You know, and Fihmiya, just to add on to what you said, and both of you ladies, you know, my favorite quote is by Maya Angelou, right? That says, people may forget what you said, people may forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. And that is a guiding principle for the way I live my life. I don't ever want to make another person, and especially not another woman, to feel like she's beneath me or like she's not good enough, because the world does that to us enough. And so what I would say to those women who are in those toxic situations is, remember, you're more than enough. We all have special gifts and special talents. You do belong. And to those women who think they have to berate another woman or put another woman down in order for her to shine, you don't have to dim another woman's light in order for you to shine. The way for you to shine is to shine that light on every other woman, right? And so that's what I try to do. And I really try to empower other women to do that as well. If you have a seat at the table, invite other women to the table. As you climb, reach down and lift somebody else and bring them along as well. There's room for all of us, and we actually rise higher together. So that would be my advice. You don't have to tear down or destroy someone else. And Shelly, I think I told you this in my career. Oftentimes those who try to hurt me or, you know, sort of keep me in my place, it was never men. It was always women. And it comes from a place of insecurity.
That's right.
That's what that is. Because when you're secure in yourself, and as Fihmiya said, when you know your value and you know what you bring to the table, you're not intimidated by anybody else, right? What I have is for me, and you can't take that away. So I'm not worried about you. Let's get in this and do it together.
You're like, Tomika, come on over.
Right.
Buy me.
I love that.
That's so true.
I love that. I'm going to bring up a couple of the comments. So actually, shout out to the Dumping Ground podcast. So we have a whole podcast watching this podcast. So hello, Dumping Ground podcast. I belong here. I love this.
Love it.
Saying here, we're trodden on enough. Let's not do it to other women too. And shout out to Nate. This is so that I know Nate. So Nate's also our road manager, but he's a huge supporter of women, obviously. So there's a room at the table for everyone's talent, which is why you really don't need to. Listen, we don't need to compete. Let's fight for business, but let's not fight each other.
And it's ugly. It's so ugly.
It's crazy.
And again, we don't have time or room for that either.
No,
we don't
have that energy.
We don't. Do you have advice that you could share with maybe a younger woman who is working for an older woman and that's a toxic situation? Because I know a lot of younger women who, especially those who might be entering the workforce, maybe this is their first job out of college and they're trying to navigate. Again, it doesn't have to be a corporate thing. It could be, you're the cashier at Target and your supervisor is older. But do you have any advice for younger women to older women in that kind of paradigm? Fihmiya, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
I just threw it at her.
No, that's okay. I love very organic conversations, by the way. I love them. I would say know your boundaries. Set those. Because when I look back again at previous situations, I didn't have clear and firm boundaries. I didn't know I could have it, right? Because again, the people pleasing kind of came in. So I would say set those firm boundaries, know what they are. And if you're still struggling, try to find a trusted person that you can talk to seek support. And again, these are all things that I did not do. So they are hard lessons that I have learned. Seek support, set those firm boundaries, because being clear or being kind is being clear and direct as well. So I learned that as well, that your boundaries set the tone for how people are going to respect you. And if you don't have boundaries, people may more than likely take advantage of you and just take. So
I love that. I love it. And you know what? We're all leaders. You don't have to have a title in order for you to be a leader. And so sometimes you have to learn, even from someone who has a title and they might be over you, you teach them how to treat you. So sometimes you have to learn to manage up or lead up, and teach people how to treat you the way you deserve to be treated. And as women, that means that we need to understand our worth, our value, and understand how to articulate it, what we bring to the table, why we're here, the fact that we belong here. We have to be able to share that. The other thing, and I say this all the time because I've worked with a lot of toxic women, don't let anybody drag you down. You're not getting ready to take me to my ugly place. I carry myself with dignity and integrity and respect. And I'm going to treat people with professionalism and with kindness. And generally it rubs off. But what I will say, and I love what you said about setting those boundaries. Also, there's something to learn from every situation. I just had this conversation with my son yesterday, who was dealing with, he's working in surgery right now on his educational rotation. And he had a surgeon who was being very rude and very nasty and treating him as though he was below, beneath them. And I said, there's always something to learn in every situation. So what can you take away from that situation? I said, one thing I've learned from toxic people is how I never want to lead and how I never want to treat other people, right? So you don't have to step outside of your character. You don't have to judge people and assume the worst about them because they don't know how to carry themselves. Show them how to do it. Lead by example.
Model that behavior.
I love that. Y'all are dropping. There's so many taglines dropped. Y'all need and hashtagable things being said.
And Tomika needs that fire emoji.
I know we need emojis going off everywhere, y'all. And again, for those of y'all who are listening, I hope you're able to catch what's dropping in the room as well. Listening later in the week. So I wanted to ask, what is the art of crushing confidence? What does that mean for you? So who wants to take that? What does that mean for you?
Go ahead, Fihmiya. I'll let you go. Since I just
That's a great question.
It is.
So what does the art of crushing confidence look like for me?
Yeah, what does it mean for you?
So I know this is a word that's tossed around a lot, but I do like to use the word authenticity. For me, crushing confidence is to show up as my authentic self. And to me, it's going to look different, right? And it's going to look different for someone else. But for me, it's being in alignment with my values, being crystal clear on what it is that I want. Who is Fihmiya? What does she stand for? What is the mark? What legacy does she want to leave behind? And what impact do I want to make every single day when I wake up in the morning? What is it that I want to do so that whether I'm in the room or not, people are still saying my name, like Fihmiya did this. Go reach out to Fihmiya for community building. She is the one to help you foster those connections. But so that's what crushing confidence for me is, just showing up and being clear on exactly what it is that I stand for.
I love that.
Oh, I love that. So well.
I love that. I know she just closed this all out. Still my answer.
Follow that.
I'm just thinking about all the stuff that I just had to go through in life and experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But when you just, I think it's just lessons. We've all been in those spaces where we know what it's like to not fit in, and people kind of push us out. That we're like, no, we don't. We're going to show you the right way to do it. We're going to show you what it looks like in a healthy way.
Wow.
And a fun way too.
I love it. And you know what, Shelly, I'm crushing it when I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
When I'm just being, how you feeling yourself,
yeah.
like you walk in that room and all eyes are on you, right? Because you're comfortable with who you are. And you show your self-love and you have good conversations with yourself, positive conversations with yourself. That's when I'm killing it. When I show up and I can just be me. Fihmiya, you and I we were just talking about this earlier before we joined this call. And I said I was having a panic attack because I thought I was being late, and I told Fihmiya, but you know what? I'm weird like that. I own my weirdness. Okay.
Me too.
Unique self, all your quirks, all your flaws, and loving yourself anyway. Because when you love yourself, the right people show up. They show up for you. They're attracted to you. So that's when you're crushing it. Is when you just fit in and you fit in. You don't have to try. And you fit in just because you're being you, and the right people will receive that. And the people that don't, those are not your people. And that's okay. I'm not for everybody. I understand that. And everybody's not for me.
Absolutely. And you're not everybody's cup of tea.
And I don't want to be. Y'all, life would be so boring if we were. I don't need to be. I don't want to be, and I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good.
So for me, you started talking a little bit about legacy, and I wonder if we could dig a little bit deeper because I'm a mom. I have two beautiful girls in my family. Obviously, they're the most intelligent, beautiful women that exist.
Yes. How could they not be?
How can they not be? Okay. And as I think about legacy, I think a lot of times when people think about legacy, they're waiting until they get to the end of their life, and then they start thinking about legacy, or it's usually associated with financial gains. The money we're leaving behind. But when you talk about legacy, I was just started to think about what that looks like, even in terms of the role models that we are. That's a part of building out the legacies for our kids. Can you talk a little bit more about legacy as it relates to confidence, and just expand on what you were saying earlier?
Yeah. So for me, every morning I would always wake up and I always knew I had a purpose in life. I'm like, God brought me here for a reason. There's a purpose. What is it, Fihmiya? And I always knew since I was a little girl that I wanted to bring meaningful change, whether I was in a space or around people, whatever it may be. I wanted to leave a mark, but I wanted to leave a good mark. I wanted people to see that there are good spaces, inclusive spaces that we can be in. But I needed to model that, like Tomika was saying, to show people what that looked like. And again, it's aligning my values, my mission, and my goals that connect together to bring that to life. And it's one thing to say it, but it's also another thing to do it. And for me, it's taking those actionable steps to really showing up confidently in the spaces that I'm in, and just really just holding truth to that. And making it known in whatever space I go into.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. How about you? How about you, executive business coach?
As much of what Fihmiya said, I really want to make an impact. I want to make a difference every day. When I make a post, even on social media, one of the things that I always say at the end is just smile at somebody, be kind to somebody today. And so when people say my name and when people think about the experience that they had with me, whether it was a conversation or whatever, I want them to feel good about it. I want them to feel positive feelings and emotions, positive thoughts, and just to have, to feel like they had a great experience. That's important to me, is how I treat people, treating people with love, with kindness, with respect, and just showing up. The other thing for me is defining success and what it looks like on my own terms, and helping other people to do the same. And I have 2 kids too. They're adults, and just pouring into them as I do with others, pouring into them that confidence, that love, that kindness, that empathy, that compassion, that positivity, all of those things, because it does matter. That's how I want them to show up in the world. And everyone around me, the people that I attract, those are my people. I don't draw negativity. I don't receive negativity. I don't have time for that. Life is too short. I want people to be happy and live joyfully, right? While we're here in this place, and to serve others and make a difference. That's what really matters to me.
I love that. And I think what people will be able to pick up really quickly, if you haven't already, it's the clear sense of your own identity. You know, again, it's not, you know, people might come along and confirm some things because, you know, the gifts that I have, I didn't think it was a gift. I was just like, it is just, I mean, that's just me. It's not a big deal. It's like,
no, it's a big deal,
right?
It's not a big deal.
Stand out.
You know, but I would get these confirmations along the way. And I remember when I was much younger, I'm over 50, y'all, so my thoughts have changed. But when I was much younger, I would say in my 20s and 30s, I would brush those compliments away, and then I would gravitate toward the negative because I didn't really want it to be true. Because if it was true, that meant I could no longer hide anymore, and I had to be more out front. Now I didn't want to do that, right? So one of the things that I appreciate about both of you is that you have a firm sense of yourself. I wonder if you could talk to that a little bit. How did you get to that point? Because I know there's people watching that, you know, they're like, how did they, you know, how did they do that? Like, how did you get to that sense of that firm sense of yourself? What was that process like for you?
So for me, I have to give all credit to my parents. I really do. I'm so grateful. And, you know, I was born and raised in the city of Detroit. It wasn't always the best neighborhood, you know, over time. I mean, I had friends that did all of the things, let's just say that. But I knew I wasn't going to be doing any of those things, right? Because I knew I couldn't disappoint my parents. They were strict disciplinarians. But they poured into me. They poured into me that confidence. They instilled in me. I think I was telling you this, Shelly, like my mom would just tell me all the time, you can be anything. You're so smart. I wasn't told, you know, you're just pretty. You're smart. You can do anything you set your mind to. I could tell my mother I wanted to be a teacher. She'd be like, you make a great teacher. If I told her I wanted to be an astronaut, she'd be like, girl, you would kill it as an astronaut.
I love your mom.
You know, and both my parents were like that. And that's where it comes from for me. I'll share a quick story. When I was younger, I was very self-conscious about my forehead. I always thought I had this big giant forehead. And so I wore bangs all the time to hide my forehead. And so as a teenager, I had acne on my forehead because I was wearing those bangs from the oil in your hair. And so my mother said, why do you wear bangs all the time? And I said, I don't like my forehead, Mom. I got this great big giant forehead like Daddy. And she pushed my bangs to the side and she said, look at that. She said, you see that? And I said, what? She said, you are beautiful. Just the way you are. You don't need to hide behind anything. Just to have your mother tell you that. It wasn't about being beautiful, like physically. It wasn't about that. But it was about the fact that she was saying, you're good enough just the way you are. You don't need to hide. Whatever kind of forehead you got, it's all good. It's yours. That's what God created you to be. That's how you were made. You don't need to hide yourself. And so that's where it comes from for me, just having that solid foundation. And so you talk, Shelly, about being a leader. I've always been that way. It didn't matter that I was around gangbangers and kids that smoked weed and did all of the things. Teenage girls, it was fast, what we used to call them fast. Yeah. That was never me. And so when I was offered a drink or I was offered to smoke this or do that, I'd be like, no, I'm good. You know, and we can be friends. I'm not judging, but I don't do that. That's where it came from. It came from that strong, solid foundation. And I wanted to live up to what my parents told me that I am. Right?
I love that.
Love that.
We have too much brain on both sides foreheads. Comment from the room. Comment from the room.
Are we connected, Nadine? I need to make sure that I need to put you in my pocket and carry you around with me.
Exactly. I'm like, man, I gotta make
you
sure
will love her.
I love that. That just made me smile.
How about you, Fihmiya? What are your thoughts?
Gosh, so many things. You know, a lot of my confidence stemmed from, again, past experiences, the ones that were really difficult and hard. And I don't regret them. I always say they led me to where I am today. I needed those challenges, those hard situations to happen in order for me to build the confidence that I have to show up as myself. But it was also like Tomika, the people that were my solid rocks that were there with me along the way, that even when the shit hit the ceiling or the fan or whatever that phrase is, they still stuck by me and said, Fihmiya, you're not giving up. I'm not giving up on you. I need you to keep going. So my best friend was definitely the person for me, and my mom, who just told me, why are you so worried? Just do it. I'm like, what do you mean do it? She's like, do it. What do you have to lose? But also I have to give it to my ex fiance as well. He told me something. He's like, Fihmiya, it's just a shame if you don't share your story. This was before I even got on LinkedIn, before I came out here. He's like, you need to show the world who you are. You need to talk, share your voice, elevate it, because people are really missing out on your story, your experiences. And he goes, you know, it just might help one person, but you never know how many more might come along the way. So that I take from him, even though we're no longer together. But I'm like, hey, there's some good parts that I can take along. But it was just everything, you know, that kind of built up to it. And I kind of got to a point where I'm like, enough's enough. I'm following this group. I need to be my own thought leader and carve my own path that sets Fihmiya out from everybody else in the world. So yeah, that's why I'm like, here I am.
I love that. And you mentioned social media. This is another area where I think it has been interesting. Interesting for some, challenging for others. But you know, as we're on social media, especially on LinkedIn, which has shifted over the few years, I would say, the type of content that's being shared. So we went from being purely a, you know, quote unquote business forum to where people, I think over 2020 and 2021, because of everything that was happening in the world, y'all know what was going on, that we started to talk more about our lives. You know, we became more humanized on LinkedIn. Some of it felt like it then went to another shift where people were really taking advantage of those human-sized stories, right? They started to, you know, we had a consultant for everything and a product for everything. And I think where we are now, we're trying to level set, and you hear more about belonging and authenticity, and people trying to kind of find their ground at work as people. And so I wonder, you know, how do you maintain your confidence? Because listen, I don't knock on wood, I don't get trolls, or I don't respond to I don't see that anyway. But how do you manage the way that you show up on social media so that it doesn't impact your confidence?
So Mia, do you want to take that first or no?
Yeah, sure. So for me, being on LinkedIn, Shelly, when I started, and I'm going to be very frank with everybody here and listening. So when I got on LinkedIn for the first time years ago, it was very stuffy. Yeah. And I thought it was too serious. So what did I do? I deactivated my account so fast, because I'm the complete opposite. I'm serious when I have to be, but life is short. So I'm going to embrace it, have fun, and live it up as much as I possibly can. So when I came back, I said, okay, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in as Fihmiya. I'm not going to go in as anything else. And I also reminded myself that not everybody is going to be my cup of tea, and they're not going to be mine, and vice versa. And that's okay. You can be the most amazing person in the world, but somebody's always going to have something to say about you regardless. So I accepted that. So I had to do it in a way that was sustainable for me. And you know, to be very transparent, there were moments where I had days where I was just like, you know, I'm exhausted. You know, everybody's doing this, everybody's got this win. I just need to take a step back and pause, because we're human. We have feelings. There are going to be those moments where we do compare. But those were the moments I'm like, what am I doing? Turn off your PC, go outside and take a break. But I do it in the sense, again, where I'm able to come on and remind myself, okay, Fihmiya, what is your purpose? Why were you here in the first place? You're not here for the metrics, the vanity and whatnot. You're here because you're here to build community, and you're here to do it live for people to actually see what a diverse and inclusive community looks like. Not for all the other stuff to gain followers. I want those genuine connections. That's why I'm here, and to build relationships.
I love it. That's why you're here, because you're genuine.
Yes.
We're all about community. We're very mindful of the folks that connect. I don't like to use the word follower, but for, just so you guys understand, the followers on LinkedIn, not followers. For us, it's a community, but totally in line. How about you, Tomika? How do you manage that?
You know what? I have a goal, right? And so I show up on social media because I want to be visible. I want to position myself as a thought leader, and I want to attract the right people into my community, or my tribe, as we say on LinkedIn sometimes. And so that's the reason, that's my goal. And so the way I maintain my confidence is I know why I'm there, right? And I'm not trying to attract negativity. If I say something or I post something you don't like, I'm not talking to you. So don't worry about it. And I do have trolls every once in a while. I'm the queen of the clap back and then block. That's what I do. So I know why I'm there, and I keep that top of mind. I want to be visible, and I want to make an impact. And so what I post, I'm intentional about it, because I am being visible. I'm being a thought leader. I'm sharing my point of view. I have something to say, and I want the right people to hear that message. I don't care if it's one person. It may not be for you. That's okay. If you don't like it, keep scrolling. So I have a sense of my own identity, my own purpose, and who I am. I know what my value is. That's how I stay confident. I don't worry about what other people say. I don't compare myself to other people. Fihmiya mentioned the metrics. There are people, they have tons and tons of engagement, right?
Yes.
I'm not comparing myself to them. Their audience is different than mine. What they post is different than what I post, and that's okay. But what I choose to share, it has the impact that I want it to have. And that's what's most important to me.
I love that. And I think this is really going to help somebody who is, maybe you're on LinkedIn, or you're trying to figure out whether or not that's a tool or platform you want to leverage. And we're all doing what makes sense for us. There's not a conspiracy where we're meeting, huddling back together, and trying to.
No, we're not doing that.
Happen. There's things that I
for laughs, maybe.
Right, exactly. There's things sometimes I post and I'm like, yeah, this one's gonna cost me some followers, but I don't really care. Right. I'm just putting it out there, But that is something for you to consider, again, for those of y'all who are watching, again, live or replay, as you're creating that type of engagement and content, what you're sharing out, just being intentional, but by what you're putting out, because you are going to be held accountable for what you say, right? It is social media. It is tied to your personal brand and sometimes your business brand. And that can rock your confidence when you get a troll. If you don't know how to do a clap back like to Tomika, you can just delete the comment.
We need to have a separate session with Tomika.
Yeah, it's a separate session. Come back. How to handle trolls. Just delete it. Don't worry about it. You don't need a conversation.
Or DM Tomika.
Or tag Tomika.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
Exactly. Hello, Sharon Moore. Just joined. Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm trying to make sure. Sometimes I miss the comments, y'all, because I'm having so much fun. But I think this is just going back to the outpouring of love from a parent. We're talking about kind of the genesis of where our confidence comes from, and Nate just saying his mom was and is the same way. So that's really important if you're a parent watching this, and you're trying to, especially if you have teens. Teens, they're watching you and your response, and how you deal with disappointments, and how do you manage through the crisis. And that impacts their confidence as well, just by, learning from watching you. So there was another thing that we talked about, y'all, when we met to just, talk about what we want to talk about. We should have recorded that, because that was a whole hour and a half.
Yeah, we had our own live.
Y'all, it was the show.
We did it with a pre-show.
That was a whole show.
Yeah.
But one thing we talked about was how we transitioned into our gifts and our talents. How did we make that transition? And I want to hear from both of you. Again, how did you know what your gifts, and by the way, gifts are different from talents. So some things that just, came with the package, and talent, some things that we worked on to build on it. So talent, gift versus talent. So, so knowing your gifts and talent, how did you embrace it? And for someone who's watching, who maybe they're trying to figure out, what is my gift and my talent, what's some of the advice that you might have, and whoever wants to take that first.
Yeah, I don't mind going first with this one. For me, it was just taking a step back and really thinking about what brings me joy. What am I really, really good at? What do I really, really love doing? And just trying to focus on those things. And the first thing I recognize is that I'm not good at everything, and that's okay. You don't have to be good at everything. But what I can do is understand what I'm passionate about, what I'm great at doing, and then really get laser focused on becoming a master at that. And so when I worked in banking, I always was a master of my craft, and I was a salesperson. Okay. And so when I would go out to meet with clients, I knew that I had to have the best presentation. I knew that I had to be a great communicator. I knew that I had to be a great listener, all of the things. And I knew that I had to understand all of the solutions that would address the pain points of my clients. So that's what I knew. So I made sure that I was a master at all of those things. Now, my areas of weakness, we all gonna have weaknesses. And I've never been the kind of person who's like, okay, I need to strengthen these things that I'm horrible at. You know what? I'm horrible at that. I can outsource that stuff to somebody else.
Here you go. Hello,
you good at that. You do that.
Delegating.
Be really, really, really good at what I'm great at. My gifts, my talents. Somebody said to me, one of my clients said to me, I was doing a workshop. I was facilitating a workshop, and it was great. We were having so much fun. And so I got back all the evaluations, and the feedback was excellent. And this was for a group of charter schools. And so the superintendent over the school said to me, Tomika, she said, it's not just what you teach. She said, but it's you. And that was the highest compliment for me. It's you. And so that's the advice that I give to everyone. You can teach whatever you want. You can teach it in whatever style you want, however you want to come across. But it's you. That's what draws people in. That's what people are attracted to. You have this magic thing. Just figure out what it is and then do more and more and more of that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Fihmiya, how about you?
Yeah, no, I loved what Tomika said. What I had to do for myself was really pay attention to what it is that I loved. So whenever I would complete or end my day, I'd go back and do some reflection about, okay, what is it that you loved about what you did today? And I would note it down, and I would do it consistently. It wasn't a day or two. I would do this over time just to kind of notice some patterns. And then I started to pick up on them, and I had an idea of what it was. Again, I knew I wanted to really deepen those relationships and make that impact, but how and what capacity, I did not know. So when people tell me, what is it that you love? I'm like, I'm still trying to figure that out. I said, I know what it is, but I need to figure out how to do it, right? I think it's the how that sometimes people get stuck on. At least it did for me. It's like, what can I do to get over that hump of the how? But the more I kept journaling and I kept writing and I kept saying, okay, this is what I love doing. This is what I can see myself doing. I also would go back to some of my really, really trusted friends and family members. And I'd say, hey, when you see me, what is it that you notice? What stands out to you? And it's not that I needed their validation. I just need that just to them reaffirm what I was already thinking. And I would look back at my notes and I would pay attention. I'm like, okay. And the more they kept saying, for example, for me, a connection. I'm like, dear Lord, I keep hearing this word all damn time. And I started to dream about it, you guys.
I know, I say it to you.
I'm not joking. I know it's so weird. But I would dream about it, and I would wake up in the middle of the night with my phone texting myself the ideas. I'm like, connection. That's what people keep telling me. And something told me, pause, take that pause and really pay attention to that word that people keep bringing up to you every single time. It's a sign. And then God started throwing me the signs, and I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this again. And that's what got me to where I am today in community, because I build these relationships. I've been an educator for over 15 years. And what I loved about it is that I could build those relationships with those individuals. And I knew they were all different. And I knew that it was a gift because I could naturally figure out what it is that their strengths were and play on that. And then that's what built the trust. And How else I figured it out is most people don't know this, is that I used to work for the sister company for Quicken Loans. And anyone that knows Quicken Loans knows that their dynamic is just over the top. And I just, when I left, I was like, the VP's like, where are you going? We want you to stay here, because I learned the system inside and out. And I was like, I see you guys are so passionate about what you're doing. I'm missing that. I need that. It's like what you guys are doing is what I'm missing, and I'm not getting it here. And I couldn't pinpoint what is it about me being there that I'm no longer wanting to be there. And when I started focusing on my strengths and my talents, I started to understand and realize I wasn't playing to my strengths. I wasn't playing to connections. I wasn't playing to building relationships. Why? Because that space did not allow me that growth, that opportunity to do it, because they were constantly go, 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 go. There was no room for it because it was attorneys and brokers and all of that stuff. So I didn't have the opportunity to play on Fihmiya's strengths. And when I look back at other spaces, I'm like, oh my gosh, light bulb. I was in the wrong spaces. I was misaligned.
I love that.
I used to blame myself. I thought something was wrong with me, but I'm like, no, I was just in the wrong space. I can belong anywhere, but where I choose to go, that's on me. I have that choice, and I was just choosing the wrong spaces.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
I was choosing the wrong spaces.
I love this note in here from Nadine. It's almost like connection was your destiny, and there was no avoiding it. I have tried to avoid mine.
What is it again, Shelly? I'm sorry.
I don't know what it is.
Say it louder.
Ministry, maybe.
For those of y'all in the chat, if y'all can mute Tomika right now. If y'all can talk to her offline about, we don't appreciate her feedback right now. But it's just so crazy. But so it's Tuesday night, and so Monday morning 6:30, Tuesday nights 8:30, Thursday 7 a.m., Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings before I actually go to church. There's a lesson in a teaching, something. There's a prayer. And it is, like I said, it's something that I tried to run from. I'm not running anymore, but it is just so counter to what I do in my day job, right? It is so, and yet I'm on anywhere, anywhere I am. There's a sermon.
There's a word. There's
a prayer. There's a something coming out.
Yes.
And so I think you get to the point where you just don't want to run from it anymore. It's exhausting. It's kind of like it's just a part of who you are, and the more you stifle it, the more frustrated you become. And so for me now, I'm just like, okay, Lord, whatever it is, I'm open to it. You align me, and I'll be obedient. But there's a lot of people who are on the job. You're in the job because, quite frankly, that is paying your bills, and that's not your passion. And it's okay to be in your 9 to 5, and then maybe your passion becomes a project. So have an outlet so that you're fulfilling that part of yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. So just find a way to tap into that part and meet that need. Maybe again, if you want to be a fashion designer and you're working a 9 to 5, and that's not possible for you to take on a full term. Maybe you're doing that on the side. Right? Maybe you're designing for somebody, or you're consulting in a different way, but find a way, for you to that has to ooze out somehow, right?
It's so true.
You're gonna be
you can't run away from it either, because it'll follow you. It just, it finds you. For me, I have, like, deep down, I am an educator. I'm a teacher, even though that was not my career path. But I ended up teaching college courses for 11 years while I did my corporate job. Did
you tell me this, Tomika?
Wow.
I did that for 11 years. Absolutely. Because I love that. I love helping young people, whether it's through mentoring or teaching or whatever. So I did that. In my coaching practice, I probably do more workshops, more teaching. That's it's just one of my gifts. It comes natural for me. And so even if I don't lean into it, it finds me.
Comes after you. It's like, come here, Tomika.
And I end up, sure, I'll teach that. Sure, I'll do that workshop for you, and I love it. It's what I love to do. And so even though that's not necessarily my career,
yeah,
I do a lot of it and I love it.
I love that. So we're coming down to the minutes, y'all, because like I said, I do actually have another prayer live going live shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to find out from you, what do you want to be remembered for doing, or what do you want to be remembered as, or, you know, looking back, and we're looking back and saying, man, these ladies, like, what do you want to be remembered for? So whoever wants to take that.
Yeah. For me, I want to be remembered as the change maker who held space for people where they did not feel like they felt like they belonged somewhere, that it was a space where they can just show up as themselves. And when I say show up as themselves, fully as themselves, where they can just share their voice, share their thoughts with no labels or judgments and shame, because I'm sure many can probably relate to this. I've been there, and it doesn't feel good. It feels crappy to be in those types of places. So I want to be the individual that changes that. And people will say, well, it's hard. I said, what's so hard about building an inclusive space that's built from the ground up, that's healthy? I said, it takes a lot of nurturing, it takes a lot of sustainability, but it's a lot harder to break a very toxic work culture or space than it is to actually build one from scratch. It takes a lot of intentionality. It takes time and effort, but it's definitely worth it. So I definitely want to be one of those that was contributed to that, but along with the people that are with me as well.
Wow, that's powerful. I don't know how you're gonna come behind that, Tomika.
Oh, you know,
she's gonna get fired.
It makes it so hard. But I'm an encourager, I'm an uplifter, and I want to be known as someone who empowers other women. I want every other woman to live joyfully, to live happily in her personal and her professional life. And that means you have to dream big. And you have to then follow that by taking big action, you know, investing in yourself and setting your goals and making your own dreams come true. You can't wait for it to happen for you. Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, here you go. You have to make it happen for yourself, and you can do it. You know, it's a matter of believing in yourself and, you know, just pushing back against those fears and those doubts and those things that keep you stuck and hold you back from doing everything that you wanted to do. So I'm that person. I want to be the person to encourage you, to uplift you, to support you, and to help you to believe in yourself and to have that big, bold confidence.
Wow. I can't think of a better way to close tonight on those points. And I'm so grateful. By the way, y'all, we're going to be coming back next week. I'm going to schedule it out. So just give me a couple days. Okay. But we're going to come back and talk about communication, because I think that is another one where we're going to all use a little help, to be honest. But again, you know, I'm trying to point out to as many women as possible, especially this month, because we tend to spotlight other women who've gone before us when it comes to Women's History Month, but we miss the ones that are right in front of us. And I'm not doing that. So we've got two women who are making history right now, you know, March 19th, 2024, who are women of impact and influence. That's something that I preach all the time. We've got to have impact and influence. And because of that, you know, you're reaching a lot of folks who are encouraging and inspiring many, many people outside of LinkedIn as well. So I'm just so grateful that you allow yourselves the vulnerability to be able to share, you know, all of your ups and downs and your experiences. And for the rest of us, me included, that watch, stalk, read, like, repost. You know, sometimes people don't say anything, but they are taking it in. You know, engagement is just engagement, right? But for those, on behalf of all the folks who are really receiving everything you guys are putting out, please keep doing it, because there's so many folks that, you know, really need the inspiration. And you just never know who is going to tap onto one of your posts one day, and that was the thing that saved them. Seriously. So, you know, so I'm really grateful for both of y'all. And so we'll have them come back next week. We'll talk about communication. I'll send out all the info. It's going to be same time, same bat channel, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all hang on for a minute. We'll have our after party hosted by me.
I love
Everybody else is going to be missing stuff. Don't forget to like the video on your way out. And for the folks who are going to be listening on the podcast streets, Spotify, and I'm going to miss something. Spotify, Audible, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening. Again, we appreciate you listening, and you guys can find both of these amazing women on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to include some of their information on those audio streets as well. And you can hear this in 2 days. It usually comes out a couple of days after the fact. So again, shout out to everybody who stayed with us tonight. Thanks for those who engaged. Shout out to the folks on Parade Deck. Have a good night to our veterans and military spouse community. Thank you for your service. I think I did all the things. So y'all have a good night. I'm gonna say deuces to y'all and hang out with my friends. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye everyone.